Today we're joined by Kasia Dodd, founder of Inherence. She's a renowned therapist with 16 years of practice as a clinical psychologist, educated and licensed in the EU. Kasia joined us last year, June the 28th. If you haven't listened to that episode, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to it. I listened to it again this week before this particular conversation. And yeah, it's full of so much good stuff. So I highly recommend you go back and listen to that. So after years of extensive research, Kasia has expanded her states of awareness. She's introduced the transformative Inherence process to connect individuals to their innermost self. And moreover, she's pioneered the introduction of emotional freedom techniques in Poland. Originally from Krakow, she now resides in the US and is immersing herself in deep inner exploration. How are you, Kasia?
Thank you so much for inviting me again. I'm really well. Thank you.
And we don't know what's going to happen.
Nope.
So we had this interesting moment a week, 2 weeks ago, where I emailed you and just said, how are you going? And you were like, oh my God, I've been thinking about you. And so we were like, let's reconnect. But we're like, well, we kind of know that it was essential to do it, but we're like, we're just going to allow the conversation to emerge. We had a little bit of preamble before we hit record, and we're like, what are we going to talk about? I am trusting that whatever needs to come out of our mouths today is that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
So I don't think we need to worry about it too much. As I said to you before we hit record, the podcast is called Life, Health and the Universe, because I think that the life part, the stories that we have, sometimes we can feel quite alone in our journeys. But when we hear stories of other people, yes, they can sound the same sometimes, but there's this familiarity that we're actually all going through a very similar process with our own lens, our own perspectives, but our journeys in this human world are often very interconnected. The health thing, obviously, I work in the health space, and I'm very into emotional health, but also our physical health and how we express ourselves, and how that kind of helps us to connect with the 3D aspect of our lives, and be able to enjoy it more in good health. And obviously the universe leaves us open to a whole bunch of possibilities. I haven't let you put in a word yet, but that's my intro.
That's okay.
So thank you so much for being here again. Let's see what emerges. Is there anything you want to start with, or shall I just kind of keep going?
Well, when you were talking and saying about that we all humans share the same story, and sometimes in difficult times we feel alone, then it sparked my my mind.
Right.
And I would say that, yes, we all share the same story. I mean, we have different lives, different functions, different events in life, different experiences, but there is that's how I understand it. There is a common experience to all humans, is to find our own self. So no matter what we do, what kind of role or function we have in the world, in what kind of state of process of development we are, I think the biggest motivating factor for humans is to become more and more whole inside, to know our deep self better and better, who we are, and be just ourselves. And I think it's directly connected with the feeling of loneliness. The more we are disconnected from the deeper self, the more lonely we feel. the more we are connected to our deeper self, then we just don't know what loneliness is. So there are many people who are very social and have so many connections and big families, and you could think they are not alone, but they feel very, very lonely inside, even if surrounded by people. And there are people who appear to be loners, and they say, I have no idea what you're talking about when you speak about loneliness. So I think that's the common experience for all of us, that we try to find the connection. But I believe deeply that the biggest, the most important connection we try to find is with our deeper self.
Yes, definitely. And that's what a lot of, well, all of your work is about, right? Excuse me.
Yes.
And I'm going through so this is just an aside. I'm not necessarily wanting to go into much detail about this, but I'm going through my own inner journey at the moment. And there's there's definitely an interplay, because there's the all of the past experiences that kind of shape who we think we are, that you can get really attached to. But there's also this other part that's like, I know that I am part of the whole. And when we hear that phrase, I am whole, it's not about, well, it's about realizing that, but also then accepting it and embracing that.
Yes.
So that is quite a journey. Can you
Yes.
speak a little bit to that? Because that's obviously the work you do.
Yes, the word embrace, you said, it's like a key word, because in the work that I do with people, there is a moment during going through certain processes and exercises that you literally have to embrace. I mean, not physically yourself, not like that, but inside, embrace the space you are in. And it's so interesting, because on one hand, everybody wants to be whole and be happy and confident and know who they are and all that. But when it comes to actually doing it, unless it's in a form of idea, oh yeah, we all want it. But when we start doing it and feeling it, what it actually means to embrace yourself, there's so much resistance happening, so much programming coming. No, I don't want it. I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid who am I going to find there? I don't deserve it. Oh, I can't be whole because nobody in my family is whole. I can be more happy than my family, for example. So there's so much programming going on when you really touch the real I and see the different beliefs there.
Yeah, it's a really, really fascinating thing to be experiencing. And I'm just really amazed at how I kind of picture this person inside holding on to all of the old stuff for dear life.
Yes.
No, because you identify with so much of that stuff, even if you don't necessarily like it.
Yes, and from how I see it and understand it, it's the animal part of our brain, the automatic, instinctual, that it's responsible for different programs, survival programs.
Survival, right.
Yeah, this part of the brain is very primitive. It's very powerful, but it's primitive. So it doesn't recognize consciously what is good or bad for you. It operates on familiar and not familiar spectrum of things.
Okay.
So whatever is familiar to it, even if it's dysfunctional and destructive, it will hold on to it, because it thinks, when I know it, it means it's good. When I don't know it, it means it's bad. So we have even this saying, how it goes in English, that the known hell is better than unknown heaven. Do you have this saying in
no,
English
but
too?
it makes complete sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so people choose hell,
because
quote
it's the
unquote
familiar.
hell, because it's familiar. So this part of the brain doesn't feel safe when something is unfamiliar. It's just a program. So
Okay.
if the conscious mind thinks, oh, I understand that this is so bad for me. I don't want to do it anymore. And I see what would be good for me. But then you have to go to the primitive brain who has those programs. And if that brain decided that this new thing is not safe for you, but the familiar thing is safe for you, even if it destroys you, it won't. All red lights will go, no, danger, danger, don't do it, and resist, because it's dangerous. So we have to really overcome our survival mechanisms to sometimes accept something that is really good
Yeah.
for us.
So what is the first step, would you say, with something like that? Is the first step literally just having an awareness to start to be able to sort of hear the dialogue that's potentially going on between those two parts, and then be like the third party that's just watching and differentiating between what
Yes, the
what's
observer
what.
helps a lot. The part of the brain that can observe, because after a while, when you get more used to this type of work, the observer learns that the panic that the animal part of us has, it has no real basis. It's just the internal panic. So you're not afraid of it anymore. To sit with it, to process it, to allow it. And sometimes people, when they hit the deep level of our brain, it feels like you're literally going to die, and it's so real that people just run and they don't want to experience this feeling. But once they went through it and they saw nobody died and nothing happened, it was just an internal feeling, there's more willingness to go through the process again when you need to release something deep. So first is, yes, to recognize it, that something needs to be changed because this thing is dysfunctional and doesn't serve me anymore. Then go into it, and if you feel like you want to die or you want to run because you are going to die, just stay with it. The more present and calm you are experiencing it, it will just go eventually. It will get processed and then
Yeah.
yeah.
How much space do you think someone needs in their life to be able to go through this experience? Because I feel like, for a lot of people, they've got a lot of the stuff going, life stuff going on that kind of is probably part of all of that internal stuff. But they maybe don't have the time to step away from it or step back from it and observe what's going on. Is there a perfect way of doing it? Like, do people need to set aside time? Do they need to talk to someone about it? Journal?
Yes, I mean, it all depends how well developed and trained, if I can say that, your inner observer is. If somebody's just starting learning how to observe, probably they need to set aside some time to remind themselves, to train the observer. But the more you train the observer, it becomes present all the time. So it's always there. It's always there. So even when you watch a movie or go for a walk or talk to friends or have fun, the observer is there, and it's kind of, you're not aware of it, but it's there. So if there is some moment important moment for you to see, suddenly you have this, whoa, you pay attention, even if you're in the middle of having fun or watching a movie. Suddenly you pay attention because something important was there and you need to pay attention to it. So then it becomes automatic, this observer. So then you don't have to set aside special time. You just have the observer all the time, and it just wakes you up whenever you need it. But at the beginning, when somebody is just learning, yes, journaling, doing my favorite EFT tapping exercises that connects you with deeper awareness. And you can meditate if somebody likes meditation, and how you do it, if it's 5 minutes a day or, maybe 1 hour a week, whatever works for people, then yes. But it's very important to have the good connection with the deeper self, because that's where the essence is, and that's when you are connected to the deeper self, you're always present. So when using the metaphors that I use in the book, whatever you do, your inner child is always with you, present. And the inner child is the part of you that is always happy about everything that is being done. It's always enthusiastic. So even if you're at work and doing something that is not very exciting, theoretically not very exciting, when you are connected and the inner child is with you doing this not very exciting thing, you are still excited somehow inside. It's just present. It's not mechanical. It's not empty. So it's so important to have good connection with this, the deeper self, the essence, the inner child, however we call it. So you just can enjoy life in every moment, and not only when there's a special occasion.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. We spoke, as I said, our episode last year was June 28th. So nearly a year, let's just say nearly a year ago. And so I've been kind of aware of this, and I've been working with the Gene Keys and going through some, personal processing and, deep internal work, I guess you'd say. And it was only like a few weeks ago that this really was apparent to me, the idea of the inner child, that essence, and the inner parent. And what became apparent to me was, that I think when you say that inner essence, that inner child that's always, excited, present, just loving, my first instinct is that doesn't, I don't feel that, right? And then just recently, I began to realize that it's because of that the inner parent that's always, reprimanding you or telling you, no, actually that's not right. And, that internal chatter that's just quite negative. So it's quite, you might not, well, I guess my experience is you may not feel or hear or even think that you have that inner child if the inner parent is somewhat out of control.
Yes, exactly.
And so the work really is the inner parent, isn't it? Do you think
yes,
that,
it is.
Yeah. Do you think that so a lot of us say, it's healing the inner child, and you've kind of said, actually, no, it's not. Can you talk a little bit about that and what we need to do with our inner parent?
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, when we work with our programming and emotional trauma and whatever generational trauma we carry too, we work with the inner parent structure. It's just not presented this way to the logical mind. So explaining it, what we actually work with, it helps the mind to see what's going on inside. So when you do EFT, for example, when you tap and do EFT and release some trauma, you release the trauma from the inner parent structure. I mean, you still feel the same after doing EFT. No matter what you believe, you still feel the same. You feel relieved and you feel calm and peaceful. But to understand what's going on is that it's the inner parent that is carrying all the programming, the beliefs that the structure heard from parents when we were children. because the inner child is the essence that wants to be and play and enjoy life and experience everything. It doesn't judge anything. It's open to everything possible that wants to experience. And then the parent is the one who knows things. So so the inner child feels, but the inner parent thinks about the inner child. So the inner parent doesn't feel the inner child, it has the concept of the inner child. So the parent is the one who knows the inner child, because the inner child doesn't know itself. It's the parent that knows the child. So it's the I that experience it, and there is the thinking about the self, about the I. So if you have a lot of bad programming in the knowing part, then you cannot see the inner child straight and clear. You just see it through dirty lenses and through some screens and with some writing and painting, and you think you see the inner child, but what you see is the beliefs that are written on the inner wall, if I can say that. So then you can't actually connect really authentically with the inner child when you don't see the inner child, because, for example, the inner child wants to play and the inner parent says, it's stupid. No, don't play because it's stupid. People will laugh at you when you do this. So what probably you're saying is something that your mom or dad were saying, or maybe teachers at school. And so you cannot connect with the inner child in that moment, and the child just sits there sad or bored or rejected or not being
Waiting.
blocked, not being yes, waiting for the parent to show up and allow the child to play in the world. So the essence, the inner child, is the part that feels. The inner parent is the part that knows, thinks, and estimates, and chooses, and discerns. And if it works, if there's no bad programming or bad images or bad beliefs, then the inner parent, there's the processor. It can really clearly process whatever the child needs. Sees the needs, estimates what's possible, what's not possible, like parent, right? The child says, "Mama, I want to play piano. But the child cannot, find a teacher, buy the piano, organize lessons, calls whoever needs to be called. It's the parent that organizes everything for the energy of the child. So the same happens inside. When we see our inner child really clearly and listen and are really attentive to the needs, then we can properly process and organize whatever the child needs, and then we are happy in life. But if we have this bad programming, we won't do it. We would just push the child aside. You're stupid, or there are more important things in the world than playing, or whatever it is. So it's the inner parent that has the problem, not the child. Child is ready to play.
I had a really great analogy with a guest a couple of days ago. And she's sort of said, when you're trying to make decisions, because there can be that whole thing of, you go, all right, I want to change something. And then you have that inner parent that's going, all of the reasons why you shouldn't. But that I guess that essence, the inner child, is the one that's like wants to get out there and try new things. And
Yes.
She kind of identified those, and I was like, how do you figure out, when to make the right move and when not to? And I feel that what you were saying is that the inner parent is much more mental. So if you have that mental chatter, kind of going, well, you shouldn't do this and blah, 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 and all of these things might happen. but then you tap into your physicality, then
Yes.
you can get a much clearer, yes, this would be a great thing for you to do, or no, actually, and it's very clear, like yes, no, compared to blah, 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 that's going on.
Yes.
So it's a fit more of a physical.
Yes. Yes, and the famous gut feeling is something that it comes from the inner child.
Right.
It's very interesting because the child is always connected to the whole. The inner child is, I mean, that's how I see it. The child is connected to the whole, but it cannot act without the help of the parent. But the inner child knows what it wants. It just doesn't know how it wants it. And so when we don't listen to the inner child, we will never know what we really want. We will try to, figure it out by comparing, by thinking what's best, what's not best, but is it mine, is it not mine? Hard to make a right decision. So when recently, just yesterday, I had this process going on. I got a proposition to participate in some big project, and my first was like, wow, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm going. Then I learned more about this project, and suddenly it was like, red flag. I just felt it like a cringe in my stomach, right? Okay. So my head says, what are you talking about? It's so great. It's so cool. You should do it because this, and that. But I couldn't shake off this cringe in my stomach. So I started sitting with it. Just because it's the intuition, it's the gut feeling, it's some kind of knowing before you know it consciously. So I could go with my right choice because my head said it's a very right choice for you. Okay, but my stomach says, okay. So I was sitting with it for 2 days, almost 2 days, and listening to this, like you said, take the observer, take the attention, take the discerner, take the thinker to that feeling, sit with it, the answer will come. And yes, and I got 3 different answers from three different directions. No, don't do it. No, don't do it. And so I got confirmation not only from my own feeling, but when I sat with it and really connected with that feeling, suddenly 3 different answers, not answers, but advices came from 3 different directions saying no, confirming the gut feeling. And my mind, the parent, said, okay, this is not the way. The idea was great, but it's not the way. Choose another way. You will regret if you choose this way. So, so it's
So that
it's a
really
dialogue.
kind of affirms,
Yes.
that that sitting with it and like that, how it makes you feel is really important, and becoming more aware of when we're having that kind of like, but the opportunity, think of all the good things that could happen, and you're like, a clear yes or no from the gut.
Potentially, it could be true. I'm not saying it was some kind of a bad trap, but if the inner parent really learns who the inner child is, that is this huge energy that is connected to the whole. On the intuition level, the gut feeling level, you know more than what you know in the moment with the information you have. But so you know it in the form of the feeling. So for example, if I took this opportunity, it doesn't mean it would be some kind of a disaster, but the deeper brain, if I can say that, knows something that I don't know. And probably there is something bigger than this that if I go into, it will be even better for me and not only me. So it doesn't have to always be that it's a bad decision for you, But if the inner child knows something, because it's connected to the whole and feels much more. If it knows through the feeling that there is something better than this, it will tell you in the form of the in your stomach, for example. And then it's the job of the inner parent to listen to it. What it is, what you need, what are you telling me? And the answer will come.
Yeah, and it's if, like you said, if you did make the decision to go with that on that path, you could potentially still get to where you're going with the bigger thing, but you could go on a completely different, in a completely different direction, rather than, and like that lesson might need to be learned for some people, right, before they're ready for the next thing.
Exactly.
Let's, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that, because we were talking before we hit record, we were sort of saying, you know, many, and I think I mentioned it at the beginning, many of us are going on a journey, you know, a life journey, and part of that, we don't all make it, I think, in this lifetime necessarily, but part of our journey is that rediscovering of the inner child, that connection to wholeness, the rediscovering of that we're not separate from everything else. Now I've lost my thread. So that's what I was going to say. So we're all we're all going through this, right? So we're born and we forget. And then gradually over time, we may remember as part of our process. And if we don't remember in this lifetime, then perhaps we'll remember in the next, and so on and so forth. But you were saying, you were talking to that a little bit, that journey, and how we, that familiarity with telling stories, and how someone might go, oh, that sounds like me, or I recognize that. And you were then saying about how, yes, we learn, we need to evolve. I guess where I'm going with this is like I guess, is it karma that I'm trying to, you know, when we learn from our stories, I don't know where I'm going with it. I think that you said, you know, it's okay to have stories and to share stories as long as we're learning from our stories, that kind of thing. So,
yeah. Well, stories are needed because, like you said, we are born and we forget, right? We don't forget because we remember through the inner child. The child remembers the paradise before we were born. It's just a conscious, conscious part of us that wants to learn the self-awareness, right? That's the part that needs to learn, and so we go back to the place that we came from, but we come back to that place with conscious awareness of what the place is. We never left that place, actually, because we are all the time connected to that wholeness, that place, but the self-awareness, it needs to figure it out and consciously know it. So it's all about knowing, feeling and knowing. We have feeling from the beginning, but the knowing part is something that we have to acquire, so we consciously can know the thing that we know on the feeling level, if I can say that. So we need experiences and stories. This is our mirror, because we have it inside, the whole universe we have inside. We have the paradise inside. We have the soul. We have everything, all the goodies we have inside, but we don't know it. And the whole journey is to know it. So then we have experiences and relationships and passions and different things and activities we do. And through all of it, we start knowing ourselves. So we are not unconscious anymore. We become more conscious of who we are, what it is. And the system on this earth is designed this way, that you learn it through experience, through getting involved in different things. So other people and things we do and experiences, this is just a mirror for the part that it's unknown. We have that part because we act, but we don't know it. And the inner parent is the one who needs to learn and know. So it's like with humans, the child is born and it brings everything. The child it's a whole package, right? When the child is born into a family, it's a whole package that it's being developed, right? Unfolding. It's unfolding when the child is growing. And the parent doesn't know the child when it comes to this world. It's just this thing, the bundle of feelings and potentials and energies, but the parent doesn't know the child. So the job of the parent is to be very attentive, observe, learn, study who this little thing is that came to this world. And by being really attentive and giving a lot of attention and learning, then the parent is the one who helps to unfold in the world all those energies. And we do the same inside between the inner parent and inner child structure.
Yeah. So like when someone has a repeating experience, that is generally a sign that the lesson hasn't yet been learned. And so it will just keep coming up.
Yes.
I think relationships are a really good
mirror.
Mirror signifier of like whether you're progressing or not, like just what your experiences are, especially with a personal relationship.
Yes. So all parts of our deeper self, their bigger desire is to be known, is to be recognized. It's like it's the biggest, the biggest trauma for a child is I think it's even worse than violence. It's not being seen. I mean, if sometimes when I listen to people's stories when they come to therapy, and they talk about their traumatic childhood, for example. So the most desperate and dramatic moments when people say is when they were little children and, for example, mother gave them silent treatment, turned the back, and imagine 5-year-old who is totally lost in the world, and the mother is the only lifeline known. And suddenly mother, turns the back and decides not to see the child. So when the child feels not seen, recognized, then there's worse than being hit with a hand, for example, literally. When because even, when sometimes I heard those words, it would be better for me if they hit me than if they were just not present at all.
Wow.
And I saw just back of their back, right? Not face, their back. So it's very important to be seen and recognized and acknowledged. And if the child doesn't get it, they become very desperate.
Yeah.
Because being angry at child, it's form of attention. It's, I know it's dysfunctional, it's bad, it's traumatic itself, but it's form of attention. No attention is even worse than that. It's like being in a limbo and dead inside. Yes. So so our deeper self wants to be seen and recognized a lot. And if we don't do it with our own deeper self later, when we still trying to know ourselves and develop it internally, that's how those parts of us feel. They want to be seen. So in the relationship, if you have a close relationship with the loved one, And that's where the parts are most active. They really want to be seen by the other person.
Okay.
If they are not, there will be drama.
So would you, in that circumstance where the mother has turned her back on the child, would someone potentially experience that in a relationship, the same kind of behavior, like shutting down, turning their back, not talking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but for example, if adult person who feels really whole and integrated, when they have this type of argument in the relationship and the spouse, for example, turns the back, shuts the door, and I don't want to talk to you for 3 days, right? It should not be devastating. It should be, if everything is okay with the person who experienced it, the healthy reaction should be, okay, he has a bad time or she has a bad time. I guess I have 3 days off for myself. Bye. That should
Yeah.
be the healthy reaction. But if somebody went through this this horrible not being seen in childhood and having experiencing the silent treatment, they will be triggered severely in adulthood. You know, when somebody did that to them. Yes,
And
it will be
somewhere in
very, very bad.
between could be somewhere in between could be, I'm triggered. Oh, that thing is still there, right? That,
Yes.
so like when you start to witness that in
Yes.
yourself.
Yes, when you start witnessing it yourself, it means that your inner parent is waking up and start
Okay.
doing its job and saying, hey, okay, I see you. You feel really, really triggered by it, but you know what? That's okay. Let him or her be with themselves. They feel bad.
Yeah, it's got
Nothing is
nothing to do
happening.
with you. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. It's quite a process, isn't it? It's yeah, it's a process. It is.
Yeah.
There's no magic pill for it. Would
No,
you say that
no.
this kind of process that people go through, like this is the really a journey to awakening, isn't it? That's what people are talking about
Yes.
when they talk about being awakened. And I always used to think that being awakened was like being spiritual and, you know, going and meditating every day. And I'm coming to realize that it's really just feeling more whole in
Yes.
your everyday life
Yes.
and like being at peace,
Yeah.
having inner peace through the processes that you've talked about.
Yeah.
Do you think
The
that some people go through a huge awakening, like a one-off, or is it a gradual
both.
unfolding?
Yeah, it both can happen. I don't know what it depends on. Some people do it gradually, step by step, and some people have like spiritual emergencies almost because the new reality opens so fast and so suddenly that it's like whoa, they are like hit with it sometimes. So both happens. I don't know why this way or that way.
In your own life, like without going, we don't have to go into any detail necessarily, but like obviously, I think that it, when people listen to this, if they haven't started their own process, they might feel like, well, it might not make any sense. When you start the process, it's like, well, there's no turning back.
True.
But it's continual, isn't it? Like you've obviously been doing this
Yeah.
for a long time in your own, you've been in your own process for a long time.
Yes.
But do you still feel like there are more layers that are,
Yes. I don't think that all the layers will ever be finished. Yes. But it's changes, and you know, most people, they are not interested in digging deep into like collective consciousness.
right?
Most people just want to be peaceful and in their own life, so they don't have many issues. They are in harmony with with whatever they do. They are not interested in digging deep into some kind of
Sure.
really depths of everything. So for those people who have some past experiences, bad past experiences, and they work on it and they release it and they feel more alive and less stress and more whole, that's probably enough for them. Yeah, but some people who came to this planet to dig, yes, there's never-ending story.
Excavation.
Yes, I just did a session with my friend who also does all those this type of work. Just 2 days ago, 3-hour session I did with her, and we were digging deeper and deeper. It goes beyond personal experience. It goes into some collective programming. Right now, when we dive into those areas, we go into something really foundational for the whole humanity. It's not anymore about personal preferences or trauma. This is like gone. There's nothing there to find anymore, but there's still more on those other levels. Yeah.
Do you talk in those sessions, or is it a meditative practice, or a bit of both?
Oh,
With your
you
friend.
talk about the one? Oh, with my friend.
Yeah.
This is the expanded states of awareness.
Okay.
That we dive deep and suddenly the space is opened, and we see structures. We have symptoms in the body, deeply somewhere in the body, and we use commands like separate or. Because when you see a structure, for example, you feel something heavy in your chest, right? When you work, and when you give attention to it, you suddenly feel or see that it looks like a big stone. And so we can use commands to actually dissolve those structures or separate those structures from your body. It's like a different type of work. It's not anymore working with trauma, emotions, or beliefs. It goes deeper to like foundations, like a blueprint, like template of existence more. And
Sounds more kind of like cosmic.
maybe
Like a bit more sort of universal consciousness rather than 3D human.
Yeah, like those people who see more, they say that yes, everybody has their own path, and personal trauma or personal success, but there's some collective agreement that we as species and humanity agree to certain conditions that are on the planet here. And no matter what your personal story is, we all participate in the same conditions set up for whole humanity. So those things are interesting to see the collective dependencies. Yeah, it's not easy to unhook yourself from it. It's not easy.
We're almost at the end of our hour, and just sort of as we touch on that collective, I wonder if we could kind of you could talk to that kind of change in awareness that is more collective, for probably people who've been listening to this podcast, and people that I follow in social media and the sort of people that I talk to. There's this shift happening, and we can see it in the mainstream governments and that sort of thing. There's like a breaking down of old traditions.
Yes.
And can you sort of talk to that and how that's kind of like potentially moving us to more towards some kind of more collective life, existence, world?
Yeah. Yes. I have this overall feeling that that more and more people are hungry for authenticity, that people are tired of those facades. They have to put it into the world how they need to be seen or how they need to perform, and they have to hide their authentic inner child, speaking with this language. So more and more people are tired and they don't want to be this anymore, live in this pretended world. They want to be themselves. So, and you can see it on many levels. Even when I watch sometimes a show like about doctors or some series, right, or lawyers or policemen, right, all those popular series, more and more you can hear more and more dialogues. You know, the actors talk to each other. It reflects that. Even the simple dialogues in simple police movies. Yes, there's more awareness coming, and destruction is it's needed, because before anything can actually, I mean, destruction, I'm not talking about destruction of earth, but the decomposition of the old structure, it needs to happen before a new structure can be built. And even our brain does it. When you have a child and you observe how the child develops and has the developmental crisis, it's called in psychology. So suddenly, for example, your child is capable of using scissors and cutting things out, and it's like an achievement. And suddenly the child wakes up one day and the kid doesn't know how to use the scissors and doesn't know how to cut, for example. And the mom thinks, oh, you're in a bad mood. No, the brain achieved a certain kind of complexity and it's ready to go to another level of complexity, but needs to deconstruct. So the whole structure falls apart. So the new structure, more complex structure on the next level can be built. And this is the crisis where suddenly everything is like, oh, I don't know who I am, I don't know how to do, I don't know how to hold my scissors, right? So we can observe it on the collective level too, that everything is deconstructed. People don't know who they are. People, all things that were hidden somewhere deep in closets, suddenly they come out, they're coming out now, and really disrupting the whole view of how things should look in the world and among people. So this is a process, because it's a global process. It won't take a month. It will take some years, I bet. I don't know how many, but I think if we go through those difficult times now and so much chaos going on, it is the deconstruction part of the process. So then the new collective awareness can be constructed. Yeah. And we will function better, in more harmony, more in depth, more authentically, more connected to our deeper self. And the more connected we are to deeper self, the more connected we'll be to others too. I think it's all going this way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that was beautiful. A great description. And it is a time of great change. People get very fearful, and it's that, and it's almost like replicates what's going on the inside. When I was saying, you're kind of holding on to all of those things that you think you are. There's a little bit of that going on as well, isn't it? It's like, well, how do I fit in? What does this mean for me? And so the work that you do, and I've got your book here, which I recommend to everyone, and you've got YouTube channel as well, so people can use your tapping techniques with a guided meditation, we say, to go with that. They can help us to work on those inner structures so that we can manage what's going on in the outer better, and feel more connected to that experience.
Yes, it's the same like with the trust. The inner parent starts trusting the inner child. The inner child exactly feels what the child is and what it wants and what's the best. It's the thinking part that needs to trust and connect. The same happens, and when people trust themselves more and more, the deeper self, the more trust in the process they will have, the less fear about all those changes.
Yeah.
Because there's deep knowing that it's not destruction in the sense that everybody is going to die. It's just a shift. It's a transformation. It's going to another level. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, sometimes there will be challenges, but it's not against. It's just a part of the process. And if there is the deep trust that everything is okay, exactly as it's supposed to be, then you will go through those changes more in harmony, with less stress, with this trust that there's the other side of it. But it all depends on how well we are connected to the deeper self, which is the inner child, because the inner child always will lead you the best path of the least resistance for you. But there needs to be trust of the inner parent to the gut, that it's that it really knows for you what's best.
Yeah. Amazing. See, we didn't run out of things to talk about.
Yes.
Okay. Kasia, it's so great to have you on the podcast again. I really
you so much.
appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of the things that are unfolding for you in your life and work. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me again, and it was a pleasure to share my ideas and feelings, and thank you.
No worries. Thank you.